All right, what's going on, people? We are back with episode number 23. It's the latest edition of the Conscious Approach podcast. JV Wins is here. Dave De Niro G is here. So Dave De Niro G, your NBA buddies, they went on strike. They boycotted NBA playoff games for 2 days. So this past week, Thursday and Friday, I think so, August the 27th and August the 28th. No games took place. And for a second there, I thought, oh man, they might shut it all down. Like what we talked about in the Kyrie Irving video. Well, that was your thing when you were saying in the Kyrie Irving video when we talked about the comments he made about not playing. You was like, everybody don't go, shut it all down. And I was like, oh man, like this might happen.
This might be
And then the boys came right back. They apparently met and then they resumed play that Saturday. So there was a 2-day strike. So I don't know what the value of that was. But what did you think of the strike? Boycott strike, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, honestly, like, I was talking with Jerry, but I didn't care. Because I knew, like, at the end of the day, it's so many factors of just how it went about. Like, I get it. Maybe if it's from the sense of, like, they showing that we're willing to walk away. But, like, for me, I just felt like it was pointless because you already in the bubble. If you wasn't going to do that, you should never win. And, I mean, I get it. Like, this guy was shot 7 times, the person who lost his life. And then you had George Floyd before that. So, like, I just don't understand. Like, now y'all ready to strike, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, when you're in the bubble, when you didn't have to go to the bubble. And then all of a sudden, now you decide to strike. And I just feel like it was pointless because 2 days, what does that change?
Yeah. I guess they just wanted, I don't know. I guess they wanted people to know that they meant business. But like I agree with you when you say you shouldn't have, like if that were going, like you should have just struck from the get-go, right? Like just not go, just kind of put your foot down and say, hell no, we won't go, right? Like the only power that he's a weirdo. But I understand. But see, the reason. So when we did the Kyrie thing, and the point that I was making was, I don't know that it serves you best in the position that you're in as a professional athlete to strike, because I think that most people pay attention to you when you're playing. I think less people pay attention to you when you're not playing. But then I thought about it some more. And when you said, maybe, striking period where players just refuse to play, it can reverberate so heavily and just kind of has so many cascading effects that it can affect so many things economically and all of that kind of stuff that it can just create a wave and maybe some changes will happen. And I thought about it more and I was like, there's some sense to that. And I was watching First Take. Stephen A. Smith was kind of saying the same thing where he was like, if players aren't playing and the games aren't on, the league will suffer because there's no advertising money. The TV contracts suffer. So if all of that happens, maybe the owners will get involved because they're billionaires and they, a lot of billionaires, people in positions like that, they finance certain political, ventures and they endorse certain candidates and certain initiatives. And so maybe if the NBA is suffering and they want to get the players back playing again, it would behoove them to support initiatives that players care about to bring about. And I'm so tired of using this word change. Like the word change to me is being so played out, but that kind of reverberating effect by the merit of players sitting out. If that were to happen, I completely get it. So it's like when Stephen A. Smith said that, and even when you mentioned that when we talked about comments that Kyrie made about not playing, I was like, okay, that does make sense, but it would have to happen that way. It would have to be a situation where you force people's hands by not playing, period. Stopping and going, and we playing and we not playing, in the bubble, out the bubble. When you give people the games, you're in effect taking away your ability to make moves in that way. So, I get it, but this is why I go back to the original point that I made, right? And it was the same point that I made 3 years ago when Kaepernick did what he did, I look for the pragmatism behind any action.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for, can this bring about the effect that you're looking for? And I said it with Kaepernick, and I kind of am of the same belief now, so I'll say it again. I think that when you use the professional sports arena, so to speak, to bring attention to social issues. Social issues are already something that is polarizing. You got people who think this, no one agrees. You got people who think this, you got people who think that. But when you do it within the context of sports, you create an environment in which you get people to take the conversation in different directions, because you open up the floodgates for people to critique whether it's even appropriate for you to be doing it within the context of sports, and that allows things to get taken in different directions. That's when you get people talking about anthems and flags and protesting and boycotts, and is racism real? Is it in imaginary? Is Black Lives Matter full of shit? Is it not? That's what happens when you do it within the context of sports. And at the end of the day, people just want their games. So the 2-day boycott, the strike, I don't know how effective it was. Supposedly there are some positive things coming from it. They said a few of the players got on the phone with civic leaders and people in the community, to try and voice their displeasure with some of the lack of momentum with regards to how things are going and how unhappy they were. If positive change comes from it, then I'm all for it. But I'm just somebody who's always thought about the practicality for any action, and I just question the practicality of it. I think that you can leverage your status as a pro athlete because you have a platform. You're in an advantageous situation because people will listen to you because you're a public figure and you have notoriety. So if you do it within the context of, press conferences and, not before basketball games. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And it's like, if you hold press conference and you hold people accountable and responsible, if you do it in front of courthouses, if you, do things like what Maya Moore did, where she stopped playing to focus on, the criminal justice reform, and she got a dude out of prison, who was wrongfully convicted. So stuff like that to me is more effective than locking arms and kneeling during basketball games. But it is what it is.
And I think too, though, like I just thought about this, but like one thing about these people, they know what sacrifice is. You don't get to that level of any profession without sacrificing something for a greater change. But that sacrifice was worth it to them because it changed their personal life. And now when it comes to like this social issue, yeah, they can make a change, but it's going to take an ultimate sacrifice. And that would have been compromising the income and the money. And it's clearly that they're not ready to make that sacrifice. And that's the only way it's going to come. So like, we got to say, yeah, we don't put it up, but they know they know that because they know what sacrifice. They know it takes hard work and it takes hours of committing to something to create a greater change like it did for their lives, to get houses, mansions, and things like that. Yeah. So if y'all want the same form that y'all come for the areas where y'all come from, you got to walk away. Yeah. But they're not going to do that. That's why it was only 2 days. And it goes to show you when they're saying how LeBron, whoever, they do all these things, yes, but I'm just over it. If they play, they play. I'll continue to put a ticket in. And if they don't, it is what it is.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, and what rubs me the wrong way most about this entire situation when we talk about pro athletes and NBA players, NFL players, and all of this kind of stuff, there's just something with me intrinsically that bothers me about this entire conversation because, and I said this when we talked about Kaepernick a few years ago, I am uncomfortable with the idea that sports players are now going to be the people who are responsible for social justice reform in America. Like, this is an American problem. And we get into these talks about protesting and kneeling and flags and all of this other crap. And, we're putting the onus on sports players to do right by the people. But when we're doing that, I feel like we're in effect not holding accountable the people whose jobs it is to do this. And I don't like, pro athletes doing things in their community is great, and I'm all for it. I encourage it. I think that it's a great thing. But this is bigger than opening up a school in your community, or donating computers to a high school. This is an American problem. This is a huge thing, that have ramifications that extend, with origins that extend back hundreds of years. So I don't know that it's appropriate for the front line, for pro athletes to be who completely comprise the front lines of the problem.
I'm not saying,
and it's like, I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm just saying in general, the tenor of this entire conversation bothers me, because we ain't talking about these judges, these district attorneys, these mayors and governors, civic leaders, people whose jobs it is. Like, it's your job to be a part of fixing this stuff. Not me, the basketball player. I can support you. I have money, and maybe if I've educated myself on certain issues, I can rally my people behind it and things like that. People follow me because I'm an athlete, and so I can bring that constituency on board with what it is that you're about trying to change. But it's your job, governor, lieutenant governor, mayor. It's your job to fix this stuff. These people in these community centers who are, these congresswomen and congressmen, and your elected officials who are appointed these positions because it's your job to do something about this. And I think that we don't focus on that enough when we get into these ridiculous conversations about professional athletes and what they are committed to doing and not doing. It bothers me the wrong way. And you talk about sacrifice. Just to kind of address the point that you made about sacrifice, Kaepernick paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm talking about
him. And he paid and it wasn't his intention, right? Like, Kaepernick's intention wasn't, I'm willing to, proverbially die by this by not playing. He was just ostracized because what he did alienated so many people that the NFL just can't kind of view him as toxic, and now he doesn't have a career in the NFL no more. Absolutely. Which is completely wrong. But 3 years after he paid that ultimate sacrifice, when Kaepernick is brought up, and he was the first person to do this, we still get into these dumbass conversations talking about anthems and flags and the right way to protest. So that whole, the entire dynamic around athletes and what are you willing to do, what are you willing to sacrifice, I understand it, and what you're saying in effect is correct, but just overall, it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like that it's like we're creating this environment where sports players are now the chief members on the front line of the war against racial inequality, and we're not holding accountable to people whose jobs it is to actually address this stuff.
And I'm with you on that, but when I say sacrifice, I'm just saying that the reason I think that it's important that I start to see this, not thinking about it more, but is the reason we ask the players. I know I would like to see the players sacrifice, because like, when it comes to the justice system, when it comes to the judges, when it comes to all these politicians and all that stuff, as we know, it's not the fair system. And, like me being experienced with the system, firsthand, and understanding, like, unfortunately, everything is driven by money. And like, I was listening to, I forgot who I was talking about. They was talking about, like, if people pay attention, Meek Mill was in jail that whole time. He was there for 3 months. Remember Jay-Z, all of them came together, right? They didn't let him out till Robert Kraft showed up, and Robert Kraft and Robert Rubin came. Then he was out in 2 weeks. So the reason I say the players will have to sacrifice, and I see why people say like how it is, because the owners are the ones who are ducking accountability. And you're using these same people by paying them large amounts of money and saying, okay, I'm paying you. Take your money and go to this. We're fine if you want to go do that. But the owners, just because they can say we don't have no accountability, but yet your league is based off of people who came from the same problem that's happening. So if the players walk away, and I think it's 29 teams in the NBA, 32 in the NFL, whatever it might be. So you're talking about 57 owners who are billionaires. And I mean, it's only football and sports, it's not the whole world. But if you get the players from these leagues to have 30 billionaires under pressure losing money. If these billionaires go to these lawyers and these lawmakers, things can get done.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it can get done.
Yeah.
But that is the ultimate task that just unfortunately seems unrealistic. Because if you did that, I'm telling you, they would go into these cities where all these Philadelphia to Miami, all these teams and all these cities where it's happening, if these billionaires start coming out because they're losing billions of dollars, things would change.
Yeah.
So that's why I just look at it. But I just know, like I said, I think that's unrealistic. But I think if people see it in that way, that can really happen. But that's almost like Armageddon. We'll be waiting for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's just it. I think that you raise a good point because, like, I think that the history of racial inequality in America, the modern day manifestation of that is professional sports. In particular, the NFL and the NBA and college football and college basketball. Like, the reason why Black people dominate these particular sports is because they were bred to do so. Literally. And then, when you come from, impoverished, low-income backgrounds and you make it to that point, it becomes incumbent upon you to do what you can to try to give back. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying that the reason why is you just talked about how difficult it can be to mobilize in that way to make something like that happen. And I think one of the reasons why it's difficult to mobilize in that way is because we get thrown into these cascading messages and have all of these sidebar conversations about things that don't matter, like protesting and what. I don't think that it's appropriate for a basketball player or an NFL player to be sitting down in a press conference and getting asked by reporters, what are you willing to do? What is your plan? It's not my job to devise the plan. It's my job to put pressure on the people responsible for devising the plan to devise a plan. And that's it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the way that the conversation has gone, it's like we're putting all of the responsibility of social justice reform and racial inequality reform, if you will, on the shoulders of athletes, and we're not spending enough time talking about people who need to do their job.
True.
But I understand what you're saying about, the money aspect of it. And it's true, it's all about money.
Yeah, and like you said, but I think we putting the pressure on, for me, it's putting the pressure on the sport.
Well, when I say we, I don't mean literally me and you.
But I'm saying we, I'm just feeling like as people. When I say we, what I'm saying is, I think the problem is when people think, we tend to think it's the players. But that's why some people say modern day slavery or whatever it is, because it's not fair to LeBron. But the owner ain't asked no questions.
Yeah.
He's benefiting just like LeBron. We in this trying to win a chip.
Yeah.
If I win a chip, that brings my money to the city. So the owner's not stepping up and saying, hey, listen, don't ask my players this. They say go out there and answer at your own will. So I'm thinking like the power of the system is hiding behind the players. And it's unfair.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like,
But that's what I'm saying. So at a certain point, do you know what that dynamic is? You want to continue to try to fight against it, or do you want to try and devise a strategy that can actually work?
Man.
Because it's like, why am I going to sit here and continuously try to fight against the fact that the system isn't being the appropriate parties aren't being asked any questions? Like NBA players are basically being used as meat shields.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I'm gonna ask you, the basketball player, when the actual influencer is the person who signs the basketball player's check. But we know no one wants to talk to them. Fans don't give a damn what owners think. Half of these people out here in this country think that NBA players shouldn't even be talking because they're rich and they got money, which is completely irrelevant to the overall issue. So if we're sitting here criticizing athletes unnecessarily, at what point do we say, okay, this ain't working, so let's do it another way? At what point do you do that?
That's when, like you say, when they say cut the head and the body dead. I think you don't try to go against it. You
destroy it.
The system gets destroyed from inside. A boat sinks from getting a hole on the inside. So if all the players just say, you know what I'm saying? Like, perfect example. Muhammad Ali, when he was in his prime, They tried to send him to Vietnam, whatever it was, and,
Yeah.
and he said, "Now you're going to jail." He was in his prime. He said, "Forget it," and he went to prison for 3 years.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying. But for ultimately, that's how he believed, and he stood on that. His career went on, but that's just a moment in time. So he understood that, like you know what I'm saying. So like, if the players complete, like if the NBA would have shut the season down, if them boys would have left the bubble, do you know it kind of changed like what that would have did? Because we think
It would have
like,
been big. It would have been big.
because then what? These owners would have had to speak up. What you gonna say? They need to get back here and play right now, or do we need to fix social injustice?
Yeah, you'd be shocked though. Some of them might have said you need to get back here. And play.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
You better get out there and
like,
play,
with
boy.
true colors. But
Yeah.
I thought about it like, think about this. And you know, we lie. You know, I like LeBron, but I would tell him, but like, bro, LeBron is a global icon. If he walks out the bubble and just says, "I'm going home to my LA house," and just we're not playing, like, you know how much, like, what kind of chain reaction? And I'm like, is LeBron even willing to do that? Like, really? You LeBron, are you willing to, like, because he could.
Well, allegedly, the Lakers and Clippers were two teams saying they didn't want to continue.
That's what they said.
That was
That's
reported.
what they report.
Yeah, that's
All this reported.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about a reporter. I
Yeah.
see with my eyes.
Right.
And I see that they found a way 24 hours later, players had a meeting,
Yeah.
let's get back to this money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so like, I just think like the other day I was on Facebook and, you know, I don't really comment, but somebody posted something. I ain't gonna say the names, but you know him. But he posted.
I think I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
he was like, "Oh, if you anti-police."
I did see that. That's what I texted you about. I was.
Oh, laugh out loud. I didn't know.
That's what I was going.
So if you anti-police, unfollow me. I don't really care for your opinion.
Right.
But then you post something saying like, I see a couple people talking about if people don't run and stop doing dumb shit, they won't get killed. And then
Right.
somebody else said, yeah,
Right.
98% of the people run, they got something to hide. And
Right.
I'm like, bro, let's be fair. Like, slavery and stuff didn't happen because people were criminals. They didn't bring black people over because it was criminals.
Yeah.
They were brought over here. And so, like, you know, one guy comes in, "Oh, Dave, you racist." I'm like, bro, just clearly look at my profile.
I saw that.
And I'm like,
but that's what I was going to text you about. That person clearly had no idea what he was talking about.
He said, what made me stop, because he said something about, I say, bro, outside of everything, in 2020, racism's still alive. All the in between, we can debate. But I was like, you not black, and I'm it's vice versa. I'm not white, so we can never really understand. So it's cool. But let's like act like racism. Oh, yeah. I'm not black, but I got black families. And then he goes to say, "Can you show me where
racism is real,
bro,
where it exists in 2020?"
So that's the problem. So like, it goes to show, like, even with some of these, especially these owners, because these owners are not millennials who own these teams. These guys are 30, 60, 70 years old. They've been around for the last 60 years. So they was around when things were different racially. They probably, a lot of them might have that same mentality where, you know, the black guy should work for them. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And so the problem is, like you said, nobody wants to act like, on both sides, because, you know, it's black and white. It's got to be a two-way street for things to be kumbaya, what people act like they want.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that, because people either, like, I forgot what he said in Boys in the Hood, either they see and don't care, or whatever it is, or they just act like they don't see it. So, like, it's one of the two. You act like you see it, or you see it and you just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, these owners and stuff like that, you can't blame them technically, because when we talk about business, it's business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes when people can say that, people say like, "Oh, it's only business." Like, that doesn't have a positive connotation all the time. You know, I can screw you and tell you it's just business. I can give you a contract and be like, "Oh, you know, you just read it. I know you probably want to read it, and now you got screwed. It's just business." And you know what I'm saying? So it's not like, when people say it's just business, I don't mean it's the best thing and it's just business for the NBA to play, but like, no, bro, it's business because y'all see all these dollars coming to you for your team, for these people. So those dollars, like you say, can keep you not concerned with social injustice.
Sure, yeah.
And so, like, when people start to actually acknowledge, and like we seeing more of it, but not in the places where we need it, because like you said, I can't depend on LeBron. But like you said, if I had my owners who y'all like have me part, like we all this together, the owners coming back to players, we probably get some change. If the owner come out and say, "Listen, I need to go to the courthouse, man. This is unright, unfair. I got 60% of black, 80% black team who come from here. I want to put some of my franchise billions of dollars to this state general attorney because it happens. Pay somebody. You know how it go in court. You pay somebody, pay the right person, and you get off on the case because of money. It's the same thing. You want a law to change, go pay that person. But you pay it for most of the time for other stuff than, unfortunately, this country wants to see things that go towards the African American community more so than none. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's like, where you willing to spend your money?
Yeah, I think that you touched on the reason why a lot of this is so difficult. First, like you can't force something to be in somebody's heart. So if you don't care about racial inequality, or even worse, if you think that it doesn't exist, then I can't do nothing about that. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, honestly, and I don't care how many videos, I don't care how many commercials these guys make on TV and all of that talking about Black Lives Matter. I always question how much these people actually care. I do. I don't, and you can make all the commercials in the world. Like on NBA TV, they show a commercial where all of the NBA owners are like, Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. Clearly the NBA put that together, right? I don't care about that commercial. I don't care. I question how much you care about it. You're not black. So I don't know how much you're in a black league, you have majority black players, but you didn't come from those neighborhoods or communities. You have no firsthand experience with it. You probably have a good heart, but at the end of the day, how much do you truly believe in the notion of Black Lives Matter, and how much do you care about it? I don't know. But
we see it.
That's the stickiness with a lot of this, is people with different opinions, people with different ideologies, like the guy that you talked about on Facebook. I saw that thread and I was 2 seconds away from commenting on it, but I decided not to because it would have been a complete waste of my time. But you have a lot of people out here. That's just one person.
That's one person.
So imagine how many people think like that, where it's like you got a lot of people out here who really think that this whole racism thing and Black Lives Matter thing is just overblown. Y'all need to stop crying and just work hard like you're supposed to, and you'll be better. And it obviously runs deeper than that, but clearly you don't have any education on the issue, and you're just going to think what you think based on what your parents told you and all of that kind of stuff. So you have that in you, and now it spills over and you're exposing yourself. But it is what it is,
like
man.
You say, we gotta stop acting like we blind. People act like that. Even with this, like, see, I question how much they care. You see it now, like I said, when these players do all these give back to the cities and all, it's never the owners out there. All the responsibility is on the player. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, them owners make commercials, but it'd be nice to see if the owners pull up in a nice bus in the city and like, you know what I'm saying? Just actually get in the field.
Yeah, and the thing, like, if any of that is happening, we don't know, because I read up a lot about it. But I mean, I just think you're making my point though, because it's just like,
I'm agree with you.
That's another example of the fact that we, and the players are complicit in this, unfortunately, where this environment is being created where it's like we want to ask them what's going on. What are you doing? What's the plan? And we ain't holding the right people accountable. Like, a billionaire has a lot more money than a billionaire, And like Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul, LeBron has a school. He literally created a school in Ohio so that inner city black kids can get a really good education. What players are doing is not the question, but because they are sports figures and they are doing it within the context of the sport that they play, everybody wants to ask them what they're doing. And we're not holding accountable people who have more influence, specifically economically, or the people whose jobs it is to have boots on the ground trying to implement these changes. We ain't holding their we're not holding their ass to the fire and asking them the right questions.
And it's kind of, but like you say, we can be fair because you always got to keep it 100. But it honestly, like, even the billionaires, whatever, ultimately it starts with the household. Like, people need to start in their own house. Like, LeBron can create a school for your son, whatever, that's cool. But like, LeBron can't care about your kid's education more than you care about it. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think it's even on the personal level, like, because like you said, we ask for LeBron, but like, what are the people doing in the daily lives? Like, what are you doing to do your part? Like you said, because it's like almost, and I just hate, this is how we are. Like, so many people get caught up in false hope. And that's just a common thing in this America we live in, from politics to entertainers. Somehow this system is created to give a lot of people false sense of hope, or waiting on the great white hope to come through on a white horse and like save you. You know what I'm saying? It's like we waiting on LeBron to give
great black hope.
Yeah, great black hope. Like, what you want LeBron to come to your specific city and put $1 million in your hand? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come teach us kid. Like, read. No, bro, parents, really, this need to, in the community, especially, like, you need to take responsibility for your kids. And I don't want to hear about it's not true, because I see so many people in this pandemic having so many kids, and like, if you gonna have these kids, it's a responsibility to be the parent. But that's a whole nother subject, different topic.
Yeah, you kind of going down that road, like. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we got to stop thinking that somebody's gonna come save it. It was like Eric Thomas say, you know, the second you go buy food, or somebody, you do transaction with somebody with some kind of money, and that person don't give you what you expected, you demand your money back, right? Yeah. You demand your money back from everything but yourself. You never look yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, I demand my money back from me. Yeah. But it's always demanding something from somebody else, but we don't demand nothing from ourselves. And that's the problem. Like you say, because everybody wanted LeBron and all these athletes and all these entertainers, we like trying to call them on them for hope, when like you got to call on yourself and the local people in your area, bro.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I'm on record with the notion that it is faulty logic to invest so much emotion and aspiration and hope into sports figures and entertainers, but that's a poisonous, toxic mentality that we as black people have. But I feel like that's kind of tangential. I feel like you're going on
I don't want
another, because that speaks to a greater, internally.
But that's how big this issue is.
I get it. I agree. I understand. But I get it. But we blew in the face. Listen, I go all day long talking about how we need to stop hero worshiping these sports players and these entertainers, and I get yelled at. So you know what I'm saying? By people, of course, who look like me. But it is what it is.
I just feel like one thing for sure in this country, like, so much stuff just get misconstrued. Like the older you get, you realize, like, I be questioning, like, when we say stuff like, we care, friends, heroes. Like, what the hell is the definition of all? Like, what? Like, say, people, what is a hero? What actually is a hero? I mean, a firefighter, technically, you could say hero. Police who actually do jobs in the force where they might save a life. Like, I can see that, but like, what the hell is a hero? Because I have yet to see somebody come save me. Because that's what heroes do, save the day, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, metaphorically speaking, it's the emotional connection. It's the emotional part of it.
Like we both know, emotional parts have your ass in the gutter because you're trying to operate off so much emotion. Yeah. Emotions you can't move, you can't operate off emotion. And I think what this pandemic has really exposed a lot of people evolving off emotion, because a lot of people not thinking logically.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I just want, if it is what it is, like, for real, like, basketball players and football players, I struggle sometimes internally with how appropriate I think their level of accountability with all of this is. I think that we are doing a shitty job of holding people responsible whose jobs it is to fix stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we talk about the players boycotting and they struck for those 2 days, I feel like, in effect, maybe there's some general action that can come from that, but overall, I just question the practicality of it, because I don't like the fact that it's athletes who are being made responsible for fixing racial inequality. Sure. And I think that when you do it within the context of sports, you create situations where people can have all of these side conversations about things that really don't matter. It's just like, look, man, Black people are impoverished and disenfranchised statistically by and large. Just look up the numbers. These are not being made up. So people just want to do something about that. Stop trying to steer the conversation in different directions. But that's unfortunately what happens when you are doing it, or when you're trying to make these types of statements before you, throw a ball in the air to tip off to start, playing basketball. But
yeah, man, like you said, you're going to be boycotting, you're going to be protesting. 381 days. like Martin Luther King, that's what it was. For the civil rights movement, they protested for 381 days. They carpooled. They didn't take the bus. They carpooled. They picked each other up. People being late. So and I'm not saying this is time where, but that's the only thing I've really come to grips with. If you're gonna protest, you have to understand that a protest has to be over.
It has to endure
over. Like you said, an extensive period of time, and not just 2 days, not 1 month. It takes almost a year.
Yeah.
And like you said, the NBA players could technically boycott a year. And I get it, everybody don't make the same amount of money, but I'm gonna tell you right now, there's people out here who don't make nearly that, and they make it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna make it. So when they say, "Oh," I hear people say, "Yeah, but some guys don't make as much." Yeah, but that come bro, it's people out here barely making $15,000 a year working at Zaxby's.
Yeah.
You think I've got to be too concerned about a guy who only makes $100,000 to sit on a cushion seat in AC? Let's be honest, let's be fair about this. So they can, but it's just you don't want to. It doesn't mean that much to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If the whole NFL and NBA, that would be real soon. Say the NBA and NFL players call each other and yo, for a whole year, let's all go to one island and just post up. It could be done, but it's just he's asking 30, 50-man rosters and 15-man rosters between 60 teams and dudes who got 3 kids and who work so hard. I ain't
gotta pay that,
bro.
and paying that child support.
But that's kind of just
people got to pay that child support.
But that same thing, that's just kind of like you say back in the slave days. Harriet Tubman told some people to go. I ain't going.
Yeah.
I'm scared because whatever the repercussions, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And that's a whole other thing. Then people don't say it's not a choice. To a certain extent, it gets to a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Either you gonna go and you're not, and you choose to deal with the repercussions. And that's why people say, "Oh, no, it's not a choice." It's a choice. You just gonna have you fear of dealing with the repercussions. That's just like in life. People scared to deal with the repercussions.
Yeah.
And so you know what I mean? Come on. So it's just, and it's sad. But hey, they tip off. I don't even watch sports anymore. Really, I just bet. I don't even watch. I really don't watch. I just bet a ticket. I don't watch the games. I haven't watched one playoff game. I really don't care because I get it. It's if you're a young kid, keep watching, inspire the dream. But grown men shouldn't be watching other grown men make millions of dollars. It just, to me, I don't know. You know, it really don't hold that much weight, especially when we talk about social injustice and all that stuff. But we put our energy and everything else instead of actually doing. We asking them to come and do this and do that when you don't even ask your own family, your own neighborhood to go pro. Y'all can get out and do it together. Y'all want them to get together with your homeboys and all that. Y'all start to make change. But they say change starts from within.
From within, yeah.
And that's just it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, God be with the NBA players, but the 2-day strike, whatever. I don't know what purpose it served other than to just piss more people off to talk about selfish NBA players and blah blah blah.
I feel like they got exposed, and I feel like it says only way to discuss. I feel like they do plan on. Unfortunately, some of us Americans out here who are really weak in mind and emotionally in time like this, and it just kind of plays on the people, because at one point people were thinking who unfortunately might really believe in change and oh, the NBA's about to be down. We thought something was gonna happen. 24 hours later, right back.
Yeah, right back.
And that's the same person now. Your hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's your hero.
Yeah.
That's your hero. He thought he was about to save you from the fire, and then he took the ladder down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but people, I don't know, man. This gets tricky and everything. I'm exhausted with this whole 2020, but you gotta endure.
Yeah. You gotta endure for sure, man. But we're gonna go ahead and cap that one off, man. Be sure to check out the website, consciousapproach.com, as well as the YouTube channel. Search Conscious Approach. You can find me on Instagram at JVWins. You can find me on Facebook. Spell the name out, search me. I'm there all day, every day. Like, comment on this video or don't. I really don't care. And check out pvoapparel.store, as well as on Instagram at pvo.apparel. We got Dave De Niro G on Instagram at 305_and_beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out, man. Support Black-owned businesses, all of that good stuff, man. Just, pay attention to who you look to for inspiration, man, and just try to stop with the hero worship, because you can find yourself getting real disappointed with a lot of this stuff with these pro athletes, man. At the end of the day, they're just human beings. You just need to know that there are people whose responsibility it is to address racial inequality and social injustice. And they're not being held accountable nearly enough because we spend far too much time demanding something from sports players. And that to me is what needs to stop fundamentally, in my opinion.
And I'll just say this, man, even with all the videos we do, like I say, we just try to offer our input, advice, opinion, whatever you might say, but like, don't even take our word for it. Don't take nobody's word for it. Like, you got this connection that goes from your brain to your heart. If you just listen to that and let that come out, and just operate under that, because that's the truth. Like, don't take what I say for granted. Just take for what your brain tells you.
Yeah.
And when it gets into your heart, then you take that and run with it. But like, we give opinions, advice, so you don't have to agree. But the most important part, people need to learn how to agree with yourself and understand that, like, if people don't agree with you, you just agree with yourself. You know what I'm saying? In a certain sense, for the most part. So you know, just stay true to yourself, man. Like, we just trying to provide a little light on do this content.
Yeah. By all means, don't agree with me. I encourage that for sure. But until then, man, always remember to support logical content. Please keep it logical, man. We gonna see you next time. But until then, we out.
Man.